Hi guys, it's me in all my glory, and no, I never wear makeup. This morning on the Morning Brew, I alluded to the executive action that was making everybody on Twitter on the left side of things, saying he's attacking LGBTQ and all this and blah 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 blah. So I did my little searching, and I did some more searching, and I did some more searching, and after I weeded through all the damn news articles, I found a PDF of the draft that was leaked. Now, the main reason I am emphasizing draft is that for those of you who skipped over that piece of information, a draft is an unfinished written document, which means it hasn't had final approval, it hasn't been made official, and it hasn't been signed into an action. I am going to be reading that draft, screen sharing it with you, and you are going to hear my reaction as I read it, and then my conclusion for the last part of this video. So keep that in mind. Now, if the quality of the draft looks crappy, those of us that scan documents and scan old documents, this document was scanned in and made a PDF, which means it's grayish, it's faded in spots, it's not very good resolution, okay? So that's why I have decided to read a lot of the major parts. Now, if you think I am leaving anything out, as always, everything is going to be down there for you to click on in the description box. If you are watching this on VidMe, you're going to have to go to my website for the PDF link, because I'm going to put it up there as soon as I finish editing this video and while it's rendering. That way you have somewhere to go to read the leaked PDF. So without further ado, let's roll this intro and let's get started. Alright, as I told you, this is a really crappy copy, so bear with me because I am going to be reading the meaty parts. Okay? Section 1. Policy. The United States Constitution enshrines and protects the fundamental natural right to religious liberty. He was referring to the First Amendment. This constitutional protection ensures that Americans and their religious organizations will not be coerced by the federal government into participating in activities that violate their conscience and will remain free to express their viewpoints without suffering adverse treatment from the federal government. It shall be the policy of this administration to protect religious freedom. Okay, so we've got that. Let me see. Religious exercise includes all aspects of religious observance and practice, as well as belief, and includes any act or any refusal to act that is motivated by a sincerely held religious belief, whether or not the act is required or compelled by or central to a system of religious belief. Okay, okay, see, this is where me and my legalese just goes by the frickin' wayside here. Whether or not the act is required or compelled by or central to a system of religious belief. In other words, it doesn't have to be an organized religion? Because that could be a real slippery slope. Maybe I'm understanding that wrong. Religious organizations shall be construed broadly to encompass any organization, including closely held for-profit corporations, and I'm going to highlight that, operated for religious purpose, even if its purpose is not exclusively religious and is not limited to houses of worship or tax-exempt organizations, or organizations controlled by or associated with a house of worship or a convention or association of churches. Okay, this is where I believe he is trying to protect businesses like Hobby Lobby, for instance, which were put under the gun because they didn't want to be forced to cover all contraceptive options because they believe 2 or 3 of those options were promoting abortion, which was against their religion, because in their religion they believe that life starts at conception. Religious freedom principles and policy-making criteria. All executive branch departments and agencies shall, to the greatest extent practicable and permitted by law, adhere to the following principles and criteria when formulating and implementing regulations, actions, or policies. Religious freedom is not confined to religious organizations or limited to religious exercise that takes place in houses of worship or the home. So we've got this. It is guaranteed to persons of all faiths and extends to all activities of life. Persons and organizations do not forfeit their religious freedom when providing social services, education or health care, earning a living, seeking a job, or employing others, receiving government grants or contracts, or otherwise participating in the marketplace of the public square. This is where this scanning thing is really wonky. Or interfacing with federal, state, or local governments. As required by religious freedom laws such as Religious Freedom Restoration Act, 42 U.S.C. 2000 BB, the religion provisions of the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, agencies shall faithfully discharge their duty to accommodate the religion of federal employees, and I'm going to highlight that, and shall not promulgate regulations that take actions or enact policies that substantially burden a person's or religious organization's religious exercise unless the imposition represents the least restrictive means of furthering a compelling governmental interest. And I don't know if I'm understanding this correctly, but I think he's even protecting Islam here, and this could be another slippery slope because if I understand that religion and ideology correctly, they have to pray like 6 or 7 times a day. And they have to wear things that often break safety and dress codes. Secretaries of Health and Human Services, Labor and Treasury shall immediately issue an interim final rule that exempts from the preventative care mandate set forth. Let me see. 42 U.S.C. 300 G 13A4. All persons and religious organizations that subject to complying with the mandate for religious or moral reasons. Okay, this means if they don't want to cover contraceptive devices, they don't have to. Alright. The Secretary of Health and Human Services shall take appropriate actions through mechanisms to ensure compliance with existing statutory or other protections if necessary to ensure that any individual purchasing health insurance in the individual market, whether through a federally facilitated exchange, a state-sponsored health insurance exchange, or otherwise, has the ability to purchase health insurance that does not provide coverage for abortion and does not subsidize plans to provide such coverage. In other words, people like Hobby Lobby and other institutions like that. The Secretary of Health and Human Services shall take all appropriate actions to ensure that the federal government shall not discriminate or take any adverse action against a religious organization that provides federally funded child welfare services, including promoting or providing adoption, foster or family support services for children, or similar services, on the basis that the organization declines to provide, facilitate, or refer such service due to a conflict with the organization's religious beliefs. Oh, it's starting to get sticky. The Secretary of Health and Human Services shall, where authorized by law, promptly propose for notice and comment new regulations consistent with this policy. In other words, if it is a deeply Christian-held, let's say, foster care system, and you have a gay couple that wants to adopt a particular child, they can say no. And the gay couple can acknowledge that they're saying no and fully understand why no. And that is, wow, okay. If I'm understanding that correctly, that's basically a scenario, and I don't like that. That's kind of sticky. That's a little bit sticky there. All agencies shall, with respect to any person, house of worship, or religious organization that is a recipient of or offerer for a federal government contract, subcontract, grant, purchase order, or cooperative agreement, provide protections and exemptions consistent with the sections on this code that I have linked below. The Secretary of Labor shall, where authorized by law, promptly propose for notice and comment new regulations consistent with this policy. I think this is the loophole of the draft that they were screeching about earlier. In my closing, I will cover the fact that I have read these and give you, my take on the whole thing. The Secretary of the Treasury shall ensure that the Department of the Treasury shall not impose any tax or penalty, delay or deny tax-exempt status, or disallow tax deductions for contributions made under 26 U.S.C. 501c, that's a charitable organization for those of you who don't know, or otherwise make unavailable or deny tax benefit to any person, church, synagogue, house of worship, or other religious organization. Scrolling up. On the basis of such person or organization speaking on moral or political issues from a religious perspective, where religious speech of similar character has consistent with the law, not ordinarily been treated as an intervention in a political campaign by the Department of the Treasury. Okay, so you can't discriminate on their religious views on a political platform so long as the religious views don't interfere with a political campaign. If I'm understanding that one correctly. This is where the legalese really gives me a headache. On the basis that such person or organization believes, speaks or acts or declines to act in accordance with the belief that marriage is or should be recognized as the union of one man and one woman, sexual relations are properly reserved for such a marriage, male and female and their equivalents refer to an individual's immutable biological sex as objectively determined by anatomy, physiology, or genetics at or before birth, and that human life begins at conception and merits protection at all stages of life. No. No. 1,000 times no. Because I think this is going against the Supreme Court order that just made gay marriage legal, and also the executive orders that Obama penned to extend protections to the LGBT community. I don't like that subsection. I may be misreading it, but I'm taking it as him completely dismissing the LGBT community and also saying that trans people don't exist. So on my limited understanding of legalese, I'm going to say, what the fuck? No agency shall, to the extent allowed by law, not recognize any decision or finding made by any federally recognized accrediting body that revokes or denies accreditation to or otherwise disadvantages a religious organization on the basis that such organization believes, speaks, or acts in accordance with the belief described in Section 2E2 of this order. Okay. No agency shall exclude or otherwise make unavailable or deny any person or religious organization admission or access to charitable fundraising campaigns on the basis that such person or organization believes, speaks, or acts, or declines to act in accordance with the beliefs described in Section 2 of this order. No agency shall take adverse action against any person or religious organization that is a federal employee, contractor, or grantee on the basis of their speaking or acting in accordance with the beliefs described in Section 4C2 of this order while outside the scope of their employment, contract, or grant, and shall reasonably accommodate such speech and action when made within the course of their employment, contract, or grant. This provision shall not be construed to diminish or otherwise limit any other protection provided by this order. Wow. Okay. Right. Sure. Okay. This is my usual reaction when I have to read through anything political or legal because, oh God, it makes my eyes cross and I get a headache. Okay, so I know what he's trying to do. I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to protect establishments that are mainly Christian-based, like Christian-owned businesses and organizations, from legislation when they refuse service to people that have a lifestyle against their moral beliefs. While that sounds okay in theory and when you're just saying it, when you put it on paper, as in this draft, you have got to go through so many legal gymnastics. It's not even funny. Yes, he cites the Civil Rights Act. Yes, he cites the stuff from the Health and Human Services Code and so on and so forth. But he doesn't once mention Obama's executive order that protects LGBTQ rights, nor does he mention the Supreme Court ruling that made same-sex marriage legal. I can see where the loopholes are. I really can. I can see where the loopholes are. The fact that he put in there that, you know, that life starts at conception, and that's a whole other video. I'm not even going to that. This draft should remain a draft. Period. I'm sorry. But when you try and protect both religious rights and civil rights at the same time, you have so much murk, so many gray areas, and so many sticky points that it's hard to navigate both and come down the middle with something that everybody's going to agree on. If he refines this and he pushes it through and signs it, this is going to be another executive order, I'm predicting, that's going to be caught up in the courts. Because I don't see anywhere where it's including protections for the LGBTQ community and like that. I mean, if you look at the Civil Rights Act, it was written back in 1964. It does protect indiscrimination against sex, national origin, color, religious beliefs, but it doesn't say anything in there about sexual orientation. I think that's why Obama made his executive order. Okay. The debate as to whether or not a corporation or business is an entity that can refuse service to people has been a debate that has been going on for years. There are precedents out there. Some people say yes, a company can refuse to do certain things because it is, after all, ran by people. My belief on this is as such. If I have a brick and mortar business and you walk into my business, okay, you have money you want to spend, I have a service I want to sell. Sounds simple. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your background is. I don't care whether Tom likes Jake or Sherry likes Mary. You're in my store. You're my customer. I'm going to treat you with the utmost respect because you're there to spend money and I'm there with the service that you're interested in. However, if you come in my store to cause a scene, to disrupt business, to make my other customers uncomfortable, I reserve every right to refuse service to you, and I reserve every right to tell you to leave. Not because of your background or your color or your religious beliefs, but because you are being an ass. And I don't want you in my store. And that's plain and simple. Okay? I think he's trying to prevent, with this executive order, another Oregon bakery, another Hobby Lobby legislation that goes to the courts. Because there's so many different ways that you could write this executive order, and I think this one is just going to fall flat. I can see the left's concerns. I can see where the loopholes are. I can see where the problems exist. I hope he doesn't sign it the way it is. It doesn't look finished. It doesn't look like the whole draft was finished, in my opinion. I hope he sincerely sits down with every single constitutional lawyer he has at his disposal for them to read over this, for them to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and either refine it to protect the rights that, you know, need to be protected and close the loopholes that I understand are in there because I believe I saw them. Or he needs to scrap this and move on. Because I don't think this is going to work. I don't think this executive order is going to work. But let me know what you think. The comments are always open. Links to everything are going to be in the description box below if you're watching this on Minds or YouTube. If you're watching it on VidMe, it's going to be on the website within a couple of hours. Before 8 o'clock tonight, all the links are going to be up for the video so you can review them, so you know that I am not trying to take anything out of context. As always,
I hope you enjoyed this trip down the rabbit hole. Join me next time as I respond to another lost soul without a clue. Please don't go to the person's page and leave hate or bully. As always, to my fellow skeptical people, animals, and inanimate objects, keep smiling, keep laughing, and stay skeptical.